Is it important to stick with just one manufacturer? This question comes from Vlad in Sacramento, California. And Vlad writes, "Hey Paul, what do you think of component matching? There are two schools of thoughts on the subject. The first is if one component has a prevailing quality, a bright sounding preamp for example, you have to counter it with an opposite one, a warm pair of speakers or a power amp. The second approach is your components have to all be consistent of the same character, top to bottom, preferably by the same maker." This is the age-old question of synergy. And part of the problem people have with synergy in electronics is that most people out there don't believe that electronics makes any difference in the way it sounds. There is no such thing as a bright sounding preamp or a bad sounding amplifier, right? Doesn't exist. So why would we need synergy? Just get the thing, they're all the same. And then there are the people who've actually taken the time to listen, to make the comparisons and learn about this stuff. And we know that that is simply not true. The funny thing is, we routinely are okay with speakers all sound different. Heck, they look different. Their technology is very different. And I can actually hear the difference in sound. I mean, there's even what we used to call flat earth people, which is a bad term and one that I want to stop using. And the measurementists who say if a speaker measures identical, then it will sound identical, and they use and they're right. If you had enough measurements, if you had the proper measurements, then yeah, they would actually, but we don't have such measurements, or typically they're not presented by manufacturers or reviewers. So what we'll have is a frequency response that looks pretty darn similar. So they should sound pretty darn similar. And then we see, well, I mean, this one's an electrostat, and this one over here is a little two-way, and they're going to sound very, very different. But I think measurementists and objectivists all kind of get it, that, yeah, speakers all sound different. We own it, but not when it comes to amplifiers or preamps. But they do. Okay, so I am of several minds for this question. Obviously, if you choose, well, take PS Audio. So we make complete systems. We don't make the speakers. We will. Starting in 2019, we'll have a really cool line of loudspeakers so that we will do everything from the AC plug to your eardrum. And that will be, when you buy that system, here's the advantage of it. Let's just take that as an example. When you buy that system, we will be able to guarantee how it sounds. Why? Well, because we designed it from the ground up. We said, here's a speaker and we know how it sounds, and here's an amplifier to drive it, and we can demonstrate it, and we play it, and we know it, and we did things that all went together to form this perfect synergy. Now, the downside to that is you may not like the PS Audio sound. Maybe that doesn't fit your tastes, or you don't like the choices we made, the aesthetic choices we made for stuff, or the price point. I don't know, whatever it is. So most people wind up mixing and matching. They'll take the best from this bit, and then they're not going to spend so much money over here as they budget it. They'll take 2/3 of their money for speakers, which is a good idea, and the balance goes into electronics, and they get the best they can. So then we get into a situation where you've chosen your speakers, they sound the way they sound, and now you're going to hook up something and you don't like the way it sounds. So what are you going to do? Well, according to the rules of synergy, you're going to start mixing and matching, as Vlad suggested. Warmer this with colder that, and it can get into quite a muddle if you're not really familiar with what you're doing. So I guess my best recommendation, if you don't have a guide, if you don't have someone that you trust, that isn't just trying to sell you something, that's actually trying to work in your best interest, a dealer that you trust, or a friend, or a magazine, or a manufacturer, if you don't have someone to help guide you, then you need to do the research yourself. So in those cases, you're probably better off sticking with a manufacturer who makes complete systems that you trust, because at least then you know you're going to get something that is coherent in its sound quality. Then your challenge is, do I like the design philosophies of this company? You might choose Cambridge Audio, or some of the like Name or Lin or PS Audio or Macintosh. I like their design philosophies. I like what they do. Pick an entire system by them, and you'll probably be doing pretty well. But I don't think there's any great formula. It's I think of it sometimes like investing in stocks. If you know what you're doing, you could do really well, but man, you better be on top of it every single day and paying attention to it. You better be that expert, otherwise you're going to lose money. And if you're not into it, if you're not really going to put the time and the research into, purchasing stocks and keeping up with it, well, then you need somebody who does, and you follow their advice. And the same thing is with stereo. And you either find somebody that you trust and follow their advice, or you choose a manufacturer that you trust. All right. Thanks for the question. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.